Welcome to Chatting with Chapman. I'm your host, Andre Chapman Jr. And today I have the pleasure of chatting with, as a freshman in 2016 2017, he was the World Championship qualifier and USA Diving National Champion in the synchronized 10-meter dive. As a sophomore and a junior, he was the Big Ten champion, again, USA Diving National Champion in the synchronized 10-meter dive, and FINA, which is the International Swimming Federation Diving World Championship qualifier. In 2019 and 2020, he was the USA Diver winner, nationals gold and silver medalist for the 10-meter synchronized dive and an FINA Diving World Cup qualifier. He took first place at the 2020 U.S. Olympic team trials qualifying for Tokyo. And then in Tokyo, he was a 10-meter finalist in his Olympic debut, placing 11th. As a senior, listen to this, he was the NCAA champion in the platform dive, Big Ten champion and gold medalist for the platform. He received the Big Ten Medal of Honor and was Purdue Athlete of the Year. He was a World Championship qualifier in 2023 for the 10-meter platform and a 2024 Paris Olympic qualifier for the 10-meter platform. Please welcome Brandon Loschiavo.
Oof. It's quite the red carpet. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of
it.
course, of course. I always like having the intros long, just to make the guests feel distinguished and feeling good. So appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for having me. Excited to
Yeah,
chat.
just a little blurb. I say this at every podcast that I started this because I wanted high school athletes to understand that the mind is something that you have to continuously work on. There's so much out there about the physical, and I just want to create a space for parents, coaches, and athletes to come back and watch these podcast episodes and take some of the tools, the experiences, the learnings, and the journeys, and apply that to their own daily life. So I'm excited and can't wait to jump in.
Let's get it. I love it.
All right. So, my first question is, what mental skills have been crucial in your progression from high school to collegiate to the Olympic levels?
Mm. I think the biggest one, and it seems like you're tapping on that already for a lot of people, is recognizing that there is a mental game in the first place. A lot of people try to skate through saying, I'm fine. There is no mental game. Like it's just a physical sport. You could say that for every sport. But once you get deep enough within it, I think greatness leaves breadcrumbs.
Hmm.
And when you really start to look at it, the best of the best are taking lots of time to actually work on the mental because that will atrophy if it's never worked on. And so the big part for me was recognizing that if I'm not winning every competition, then there's something lacking. I'm as strong as everyone else. I spin just as fast as everyone else. Well, what does that person have that's better than me? And then I start to look at the pieces and, well, this guy walked up there, 10 meter, right? It forces fear out of you. But a lot of sports end up doing that when you're on the defensive line or you're running next to the fastest person in the world, that fear will creep out no matter what.
Hmm.
And so recognizing that it is just right here, I used to say most sports are 90-10. At least for diving, it's 100%. It's 100% mental. So to full circle back to, the question, first it's recognizing that there is a mental game.
Hmm.
Once you have recognized that it is a mental game and you have to actually work on it, like physical therapy, like strength training, then you have to have a pathway forward to actually work on it. There's a million different ways of doing it. How I started was by reading. I started reading, and then I got into a sports psychologist and got to work with them and understand the pieces behind it, the education behind it. So I did self-study, and then I was led by a professional. Those two things together pushed me in the right direction. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Greatness leaves breadcrumbs. That's amazing. What was that determining factor that made you, first of all, start reading or start realizing like this is something that I need to work on? And then what type of books were you reading to work on that?
Well, I mean, we all want to be successful. I don't think, for my story at least, I wasn't the most talented person. I mean, you just went through this long list of things, but the amount of work I had to do to get there was, in my mind, absurd comparative to a lot of my competitors. A lot of it just came to them. I was never a junior national champion. I never had all these junior international meets that never happened for me. And so my whole junior career was me just grinding away for years until I could finally be in the position to figure it out. That took a really long time. So, in the use case that someone's not as good, I actually think it's very beneficial because it forces you to understand other things if you're willing to look at them. So you have to be willing to look outside of the box. Um, where did I start? A book that I started with was a friend of mine pushed me. I never used to read. So I
Hmm.
think, again, that's similar to the mental game is being willing to sit down for an extended period of time and be quiet and read. But the first one that I read was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
Mm.
That started everything.
Love that book.
Yeah, that started everything for me. And then from there, it was just The Alchemist was one.
Hmm.
Because again, mental is not just within the sport. As you probably know, it goes outside of that. Like the
Hmm.
goal is to become a better person.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, a sport is just a game.
Hmm.
And so, can we learn about ourselves? Can we learn to be a better person and connect more with others? And so, using all of those things, how to that I think The Alchemist is a good book to like understand the self, the mind. The Four Agreements is another really good one.
Yep.
Top Wood Carry Water is probably my favorite one out of
Okay.
all. And those books, they're all short, they're easy, they're palatable. I think the biggest piece is just to start reading.
Hmm.
Because you could go into sports psychologist meeting and hate the sports psychologist.
Hmm.
Well, that's a problem because then it just you think sports psychology sucks, but there's a lot of really good information and education within a sports psychology meeting if you're connected with the right one. Can't really mess up with a book unless you don't read it.
Yeah.
So I think to me that's the best first step is to see, hey, like Dan Millman went through this entire book of this athlete that has a lot of the same struggles as me. And so you can just try to cut your learning curve by understanding and almost sympathizing with that person. So that's how I would start. That's my favorite way of doing it.
I read this quote and it said, if you want to hide success from people, put it in a book. And so I very much agree with what you said. That's actually how I came into the mental performance journey myself is when I was deciding to go for the 2020 Olympics, I'm like, I need to train my mind to be able to overcome the doubt that I've been dealing with that's telling me, hey, you're not good enough to do this because I didn't have these accolades or I didn't have these accomplishments. And so I dived into the way of the peaceful warrior, the force, the four secret agreements. Is that what it's called again?
Oh, the Four Agreements.
The four agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah. And during that time, I met a therapist or a psychologist, and she said exactly what you said is like, the psychologist and the therapist can only take you so far, but you have to be willing to ask yourself these questions, even outside of therapy. You can't like depend on this therapist for help or the psychologist for help. You have to want to do the learning as well. So I very much agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water. This was from my psychologist, but you can't force it to drink.
Yeah.
So that's the probably the most common line a sports psychologist will say. It's like, hey, I can give you all these tools, but if you don't use them, we're wasting our time. It's nice. It probably feels really good to talk about issues outside of athletics and stuff like that because they all blend and bleed within one another.
Hmm.
But when it comes to actually utilizing the tools, you've got to do it.
Yep, yep, yep. And I want to touch back to something that you said, which is a fundamental belief of mine, is that at the end of the day, all of this stuff is to make you a better person. Like, yes, you're going to improve in the sports arena, but it's also going to impact every other aspect of your life because these are just tools to become a better person and to live a more fulfilled life.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when you boil it down, right? We look at sports and athletics. It's the closest thing that we could get to nature, right?
Hmm.
You're put in this fight or flight against someone else, right? So we get to like test that death feeling without being within that. So how do you as a person react when you're pushed to the edge, when
Yeah.
you're forced into a corner? Do you get super ugly or can you kind of like push down that monkey brain
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
learn to actually connect with other people? Because to me, it's sport athletics is super fun because we get to push someone else other than ourselves if we look at it that way.
Yeah.
So like initially, I might take us on a little side tangent
I
here,
love
but
tangents. I love tangents.
initially, I didn't make it to the 20 Paris 2024
Yeah.
Olympics.
I saw that.
And so you have two decisions. I got screwed. I got us the Olympic spot, right? So first place was supposed to be mine. Okay, that's one path of like a pathway of thinking. Or you could take it the other way. I got us that Olympic spot. I just pushed this kid to his absolute like peak performance. I pushed him to his greatest potential because he was fighting me the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just made the US better because we have a better candidate going.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there and went, it's frustrating that I am not going, but that's not the point. The point is, can Team USA get more medals? And yes, of course, it feels good going because, you want all the accolades and the ego starts speaking up and all this. But are you the best candidate to go? Most people don't ask themselves that question. And,
Wow.
you're supposed to, and that's the thing, right? That's a question you ask after,
Yeah.
right? And that will hit you because you have that, or should I be here? And you start to run in that whole mental side piece. But I think the main question to ask yourself after is, did I push our country to the best possible position? And at that moment, I said yes. And I was happy. I had a great career. I pushed and fought for as long as I could. And then I forced someone else to be greater.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and I was like, I'm happy about that. Because again, like you aren't defined by one competition. You didn't meet all of your friends, you didn't connect, you didn't find girlfriend, wife, you didn't find a best friend from one competition. It was the athletic journey itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you learned about who you were as a person. It wasn't just this one moment. So if you let this define everything, then all this is useless and this was done in vain. It's pretty sad.
That's beautiful. That was very beautifully put, man. And I think that takes a lot of courage to have that I don't even want to say courage because it makes it sound like it's so hard, but a lot of maturity and self-awareness to have that perspective of, am I the best candidate to go? And even though I may not be going, I helped push and make this other person better, even if it wasn't necessarily the results that I got. I think that's an amazing perspective, and one that is not the automatic response, but something that does probably have to be trained to be able to look at things from a bigger perspective, like you said, and not just this one competition, but the whole journey.
Yeah, it's like it's what Jim Carrey said. It's hard to tell someone not to get a Ferrari when they don't have, and maybe that was Naval Ravikant. Jim
Mm,
Carrey says, I've had the Ferrari. I don't need it. It's not as useful. But the person that's poor wants the Ferrari. So Naval Ravikant says that person needs to find out what the Ferrari feels like to not want it.
mm,
And so I've been on both sides. I've gotten the thing, I've gotten the Ferrari, I've made it, and I've also not made it. And so I've been on both sides. I think that the perspective comes from consistently trying to analyze and perceive what's happening to me,
yeah.
if I get the thing or if I don't get the thing. And most people end up just, sure, you could almost say it's emotional immaturity,
Hmm.
or they just haven't had the time to sit down and think. Like this doesn't
Hmm.
allow you to step away from what's happening. So
Hmm.
like what I tell a lot of the athletes I'm working with now is let it be a practice or a competition. After, can you sit down, good or bad competition, good or bad practice? Can we analyze what happened and then move forward?
Hmm.
So at some point, if you're just going to a practice and then leaving, what did you really get from it if you don't see the positive or at least the hard steps that made you learn to go forward?
Hmm.
I tried to make a basketball reference, which probably sucked, but I was like, if Steph Curry, I was told he shoots like 500 shots a day,
Hmm.
right? So if he shot those 500 shots a day, he's doing the action. So if you blindfold him as he's doing it, what is he learning? How do you know if he's getting it in or not? So it's the same thing with a lot of us. If we go to our athletic field to play, mine's diving. So if I go on the 10 meter, I have a great practice and I leave. What did I learn? Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
might have gotten lucky, but what
Mm-hmm.
steps pushed me forward outside of me feeling really good leaving?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
useless.
Yeah.
And so I think that was one piece, and we might touch upon this is like finding a way to tactically understand your mind. So
Yeah.
I give people like a tactical journal. You don't have to write out your thoughts. Today I felt so good. Like
Yeah.
that's not the point. Like the point is to write down, this can take you 3 minutes. What was my goal? What did I learn? And then what were the three pieces, a few pieces per thing that I did that helped me move forward?
Mm.
Move on. You're done. But you did analyze that. Write the date. So what I usually tell people is the moment it clicked for me was after one of my best friends and I didn't get the Olympic spot for synchronized diving for
Mm-hmm.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it pissed me off because we should have had that spot. Not should, but we could have easily gotten it. No one
Yeah.
deserves it.
Yeah. 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 I like the
Respect there.
correction.
But so I sit down and I just journal for like 30 minutes and I write the date. I think it was like 5/17 dash. Today's the first day I become an Olympian, period.
Mm.
And it clicked. And I finally committed to doing the mental side of things. And at that moment, daily, and I can just scale through this entire journal and you'll see my mind building
Yeah. Yeah.
every time I journal.
Yeah.
So I think those are the important pieces is you have to go through athletics experiencing the
Mm-hmm.
good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, a lot of the athletes that are the best in the world, that just have the most amount of talent, it's hard to get a lot from them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really like I heard nothing against the man. I bet you he could blow me out of the water when it comes to talking about mental, but I could be wrong. But like I listened to Michael Phelps talk and I was like falling asleep. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of trite wisdom that's really good.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Yeah.
trite.
Yeah.
But deeper, go deeper. What
Mm-hmm.
else is there? I didn't hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more interested in talking about the athlete that didn't win because most of them are unbelievably intelligent. How did they get the one that shouldn't have been there? How did you get to at least finaling?
Yeah.
What were the pieces that you did? Like you didn't have that you wake up and then, you just won the Olympics.
Yeah.
And sure, I'm not taking anything away from the work ethic of those people, but that's easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everyone's really good at fighting like hell to get to where they want.
Yep.
I think that's a piece a lot of those guys don't understand is the grind in the dark. That's easy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants it as bad as you do.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like you didn't work as hard as the person that got third. There's no way. But what flicked in your mind? Sure, that he might have some just crazy mental, and then you add the talent. So
Yeah.
usually what I've the most Jonathan Suckow, he's forgot where he dove. He'll have to apologize to him. But didn't make it to the Olympics, went to World Championships, was an incredible diver, but he didn't make it. But if you sat him down, the amount of gold that you get out of that human
Yeah.
is incredible. It's incredible. And like I've never been like as blown. I know a lot of Olympic champions. I've talked to a lot of these people. They have great stories, but like you're missing gold. There's
Mm-hmm.
something not there.
Mm-hmm.
But the people like that, like Jonathan, when you start to listen to them, you're like, ah, how are people not listening to that guy?
Yeah.
But we're just looking for the flashy. Like that's the Instagram. That's what we're used to right now is, well, I want like gold. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 10th or 11th place might be a better story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that was kind of a long-winded answer.
No,
So
I appreciate that. And what kept popping up in my head was you learn more from your losses than you do from your successes. And that's essentially, a culmination of some of the stuff that you were talking about. I want to jump back to something you said earlier about how do you essentially work to keep that monkey off your back so you can perform when you need to? How do you manage and deal with performing in these high pressure situations and moments?
yeah, yeah, the monkey mind. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a lot of experience. And then recognize, again, it's the main thing is can you recognize what's happening?
Hmm.
For me, diving, 10-meter diving is very scary. I've always been afraid, no matter what. And I think the big thing was accepting the fear. Because, right, like a lot of emotions are like a wave.
Yep.
They come in and go out. So you have a
Mm-hmm.
few choices. You could either fight the wave and essentially drown. I don't know if you've ever surfed before, but when you get thrown over the falls, the best move is just to completely go limp. Because if you're fighting the wave and you're tumbling, you tightening up makes you actually, it forces you not to hold your breath as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that, or you can ride the wave and go, I know I'm really afraid right now. How can I use that to help me? Or you can just let it pass.
Mm-hmm.
So just experience the emotion and let it go. But that's hard. That takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
But within those moments when the monkey brain's going, run, 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 do not be here, that's when you need to like double down and be there. And that's like you're forcing exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more you can force the exposure of when I'm afraid, sit there and then go do the thing. Like, and again, that's more trite wisdom,
Yeah.
but I think being able to then analyze that
Yep.
is where you get that rocket fuel. Is
Yeah.
okay, I was afraid. Why am I afraid? So now let's find the logic within the fear and then just start breaking it down. Can we compartmentalize what this fear is
Yeah.
and then take it by one slice at a time? Because if you try and eat a whole cake, good luck. But if you can take it in a little slice, I'm really afraid because the lighting freaks me out. The texture of the platform is making me afraid. Well, how can I do these things? I can do jumps and flips off 10-meter and just experience the light and get used to it. Boom, exposure. And then the texture freaks me out. Okay, can I put a towel on the
Mm.
platform or can I do more things to at least understand how to hit before I jump? So it's okay, all the fear is loud and it's freaking out. So the monkey brain's, shaking, but then slow down. This is probably my favorite thing, and this would be tried and true for every sport. I could almost be 99% sure about this. If you look at an athlete that's freaking out, that doesn't do well on that inverted U
Mm-hmm.
of the threshold of them being too excited,
Mm-hmm.
walk slow, talk slow, think slow. Just slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, let's say it's track and you're walking to the line, walk slow, like walk really slow because it's going to force everything. Like your
Mm-hmm.
CNS, your central nervous system is going to start to follow. And so if that is already too heightened, then this is going to follow it. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to have a slow mind while you're moving quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But then right as the gun goes off, be fast. Let this be fast because
Yeah.
you need to react quickly.
Yep.
But it's beforehand. Can you slow everything down? If you're talking to your coach, can you speak slowly
Yeah.
and not because I can tell like body language. I'm,
Yep.
I'm assuming you've seen this in a million different ways. But if you have an athlete that's talking like this, and you can even feel like, whoa, 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 okay, okay, okay. So I think those are big pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, I had an athlete at a track meet this past year, and she was just like this incredible 400-meter runner, and I happened just to be walking by her, and I noticed she was like shaking visibly and crying, and so the whole thing was, let's calm our breathing down, let's slow it down, let's just be present in the moment. And so I like that you said walk slow, talk slow, and then think slow. That was or breathe slow.
Think slow.
Think slow. Yeah.
Yeah. Which the thinking will be accumulated by the first two. But even if you can just try to like pick cues, right?
Hmm.
For diving, we usually like to think about the start of the dive because it'll make the rest of the dive easier. So maybe for like running, you could think about just how you would start. Um, so I think those are big pieces to slow the mind down. Let's shrink the cake. Just take
Yeah.
it to one slice. What can I think about one thing? And then the mind will start to just, the pitter patter will just shrink a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And so that would be the thinking slow. Walk slowly to the start. Talk slowly to yourself. And like again, it's another thing that I was explaining to my team this weekend, we were just at a competition, was you define the story no matter what.
Hmm.
Trite wisdom, you can either run from the storm or learn to dance in the rain. So when you're afraid or when you're upset that something didn't go your way, what's the story? Okay, did I just get better? Or am I going to panic? My life sucks. I'm frustrated. One story takes you into a learning phase, and the other one just goes into this negative feedback loop.
Hmm.
And you stay here. This
Hmm.
one keeps going upwards.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of pieces to kind of play with that. But I think my favorite piece to a lot of athletes, good or bad result, what's the story you tell yourself?
Yeah.
Even before you get there.
Yeah.
There was a track athlete I was obsessed with in Paris 24. You probably know him. Wasn't supposed to win. It was a
Mm-hmm.
sprint. It was a full-blown sprint. Do you know the athlete I'm talking about?
The 800 Cole.
It might have been him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone
Cole
was like, you weren't
Hawker.
supposed, yeah, you weren't supposed to win.
Yeah.
One off champion. But like everything that I was seeing beforehand, I never, I might have, we might have been in the same room or something like that, but I didn't like personally speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the mindset that he had beforehand. Like he was so unbelievably confident within himself.
You might be
That
talking
could,
about Noah. Was it a 100-meter dash? Do you
it might
remember?
have been a 100-meter
Okay,
dash.
so you're talking about Noah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What a beast. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's to me, okay, that's a champion that has something behind him. Wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to win. And then he had this confidence which can force the mind to think slow. Just being like, I'm a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that confidence breeds slowness in the mind to where it's not freaking out. You're just here. You're just
Yeah.
going, he's just going forward. Because then the other pieces can follow suit to that.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be in that order. I loved that. I
Yeah.
love that. Even the negativity that was coming at him
Yep.
from insecure people
Yeah.
was I just loved it. And he
Yeah.
ate it. He ate it. It's like, all right, like it's a lot of talking, but he had the work and the mental. And he knew. He knew when
Mm-hmm.
he won, that was like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
earned
Mm-hmm.
it. I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That was it.
You said something about like affirmations. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. Um,
You didn't necessarily say something, but just in the way that you I don't know if you saw him talking to himself and just reaffirming his greatness.
you've got to be able to talk to yourself more than you listen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's when the monkey brain is the loudest and it speaks the most, is when you feel the fear start to tick. That's when you need to start telling yourself your own story. So it would be an affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it would be like I'm the fastest man here.
Mm-hmm.
Or for like my athletes is I'm afraid, but I'm good at spotting. So pick a technique that you feel confident in. Or it's like I can spin fast. I am good at this. And so
Yeah.
it's just reframing a negative to a positive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes a long way. And that's again something you learn within sports psychology, meeting with a lot of these psychologists is again, if you have a negativity, let's look at the track record of what you've
Mm-hmm.
done. So
Mm-hmm.
like in diving, smacking is the big fear. So someone smacks one time,
Mm-hmm.
it just blows over all of this great work unless you don't let it. Like I've smacked once, okay?
What is smacking to
You
be
like you belly flop.
okay.
You
Okay.
like
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
even if you like hit the platform or nick
Yeah.
something and you get really afraid. I'm like, okay, wait. Statistically, if we're going to look at how many times you've done this dive, let's just say it's like 400 times. You've gotten hurt once.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like in my mind, is that we're changing the story, and it'd be an affirmation of, okay, well, I've done this dive 399 times well, and I've had one bad, and so I'm going to change the story that's in my head. And so
Mm-hmm.
the affirmation is, I'm much more consistent than I thought I was.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, you can call it affirmations, you can call it reframing.
Mm-hmm.
They're all super important when you start to have that mind start teetering in the back.
Yeah. I like that you call it a monkey brain. Do you have a reason as to why you say that?
I think I heard it somewhere, the monkey
Yeah.
mind, the monkey
Yeah.
brain. It's just, it's our what we've been built with. And
Yeah.
when you start to feel that fear, it's like we're safe. Like again,
Mm-hmm.
this is why I said like this is the closest you can get to death without
Mm-hmm.
having the consequence of death.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what athletics does.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you're a quarterback and you've got these offensive linemen just staring at you, it's pretty close to like, lion and gazelle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're in that situation. Now you're in a safe area. Sure, you might get tackled, break a
Mm-hmm.
bone, but like essentially the worst thing that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's us just being able to like, what happens here? And all it is just working with it. Can you perform under that type of pressure? Death.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it inevitably is like a monkey brain.
I took this meditation class at UCLA, and she also called it a monkey mind. And she tells this story of some researchers put a banana in a coconut, and then a monkey comes over there and he sticks his hand in it and he tries to pull the banana out, but he can't pull the banana out because he can't fit, and so he just walks around with the hand in the banana and the coconut instead of just letting it go. And she was saying that's how we are with our thoughts. We hold on and then we don't release that thought to like free us of having our hand essentially in the coconut. So I was wondering if
Mm.
you had a story like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, essentially in my mind is at some point within, so like 10 meter, you're 33 feet up, and you are dealing with height, like a lot of height. Um, how can you learn to let yourself go of that? Like, how can you teach yourself to let go of the banana so you can slide the hand out?
Yep.
Sometimes you need to find something um, like exposure therapy, like
Hmm.
something that would change how you would look at the banana
Yeah.
so you can let it go.
Yeah.
And so I've told the story a million times, but it took me 2 years to jump off 10 meter as
Wow.
a 10-meter diver. Like I went from gymnastics, which is like pretty low on the ground. Sure,
Hmm.
high bar is like fairly high, but it's not 33 feet up.
Yeah.
So I went to diving and I like walked up and looked over. I crawled to the end, like holding onto the railing,
Yeah.
crawled to the end and was like, yeah, no chance. I thought I wanted to be like these guys in the Olympics, but like, I don't know. But
Hmm.
like I wanted it. And so I just kept walking back up. So trying to
Hmm.
do the exposure route uh, didn't work. And one time I had a friend just offer, let's go to Six Flags. It's like, okay, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Very deeply afraid of heights, but like you're strapped in, so I'll try some.
Hmm.
And I ended up going on a ride called Goliath. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've ever heard of it, but
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
220 foot
Hmm.
up and down.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, okay, went on that ride, was horrifying. I felt the fear, and then I got off and was fine. And then that next week, I walked on the 10 meter. I was like, okay, 220 feet strapped in,
Yeah.
35 unstrapped in. And that first week, I jumped off
Hmm.
after doing that. So it took me essentially 2 years to find an exposure scary enough to do that.
Wow.
Um, and I think sometimes that's a great way of doing it. How can you just teach your mind that there's something relative to that fear, and then like again reframing how you can let go of that. How can
Hmm.
I change my thoughts to be like, okay, that's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
um and then I finally jumped. I mean, I had my brother, they even brought in my brother like as a tool to get me to jump off. He looked at me and he still has the story. He goes, if you don't jump off now, when you make it to the Olympics, I'll be able to hold this over your head forever. I jumped
Wow.
off literally,
Wow.
and he started sprinting.
Yeah.
Sat there, was like, ha ha ha, boom, he jumped off. And
That's
he said it
dope.
to me when I made it, which was funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of those things, a story, I guess in my mind, how I somewhat relate to that banana was just finding a bigger banana
Hmm. Hmm.
and then knowing that these two things are relative, but I know how to deal with them. And you just got to find a confined space to be able to like let go.
Yeah.
But that takes a lot of introspection, reading, guidance,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you just need to like fuck around and find out.
Yeah. Just take yourself to the deep end on accident. Next thing you know, you don't have a
Yeah.
choice but to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's why we have a Red Bull cliff diving has a 27-meter
I've seen
platform.
that.
Yeah. So if you walk up there and look off, you're like, oh my God, that's 91 feet. You look down, you're like, wow. And then you go
Yeah.
back to 10 meters, 33 feet, and you're like, this is literally like the side of the pool.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it's just like, how can you find something to exaggerate this to where this doesn't feel like that's that extensive. So
Yeah.
maybe that connects, maybe it doesn't, but
It absolutely it does with me. So and I feel like I have some athletes in mind who I can't wait for them to see this as well, so they'll connect with it.
yeah.
But my next question is, can you share a time when you were in a slump and how you mentally overcame that slump?
Yeah, yeah, I have a lot of those. Um, Most important times, but I think a specific one, I think my favorite one that I tell people is right before Tokyo 2020. If you were to say Olympic trials to me,
Mm,
I start shaking. I'm waking up to panic attacks in the middle of the night because of a specific dive. Um, and that was kind of my life for the preceding, it was probably about like 6 to 8 months. And then I met with a sports psychologist and he asked me the question, what happens if you don't make it? Right. So I'm holding on to this thing so hard. If you start
mm-hmm,
talking about it, I start tweaking out. What if you just let go of it?
mm,
Doesn't mean don't try,
mm,
but what happens if you let go of it? What happens if you don't make it? I've never had anyone ask me that question. Or if it did like start to come my way, no. And that to me reframed, forcing me to have that conversation with myself. Are you a worse person?
mm,
Right. And so you just start looking at the whole journey itself. And then so I actually let go, was able to start sleeping through the night a little bit
mm-hmm.
better because that dive wasn't so, if I don't do it, I don't make it. And then that, that negative
Yeah,
feedback loop keeps
yeah,
restarting.
yeah,
And so meeting with that sports psychologist and understanding that if I don't get it, I'm not a worse person,
mm,
that my whole journey wasn't essentially in vain.
yeah,
um, Somewhat trite wisdom, but when you actually try to apply it to yourself, it's really hard. And I would
yeah,
challenge a lot of the younger athletes to say that.
yeah,
What if you don't make it to a D1 school? What if you don't win NCAAs?
mm-hmm,
Um, Being on the other side of it, right? I've gotten the Ferrari before. I've won Big Tens, I've won NCAAs, I've
mm-hmm,
made it to the Olympics. It's cool. It's really great, but you'll get there and you'll notice that it's not as blown up as you thought it. Like, yeah, there's
yeah,
some incredible pieces, but it doesn't change you.
yep,
And once you recognize that this thing doesn't define me, it doesn't change who I am. It has a really cool, shiny little title,
yeah,
but it's not what you think. And once, if you can analyze that, this is what I actually saw in 2020 when I got there, was
mm-hmm,
people expecting that. And so there's like statistics on a lot of people being suicidal after the Olympic Games.
yeah, yeah,
You've hit the peak, like the
yep,
absolute peak. There's nothing higher than that.
yeah,
And then what else? You're like expecting all these things. You have people giving you things, and so many people having their eyes on you for a month straight, gone. And it's quiet.
mm-hmm,
And then you're just left with yourself. And what
mm-hmm,
ends up happening is you have to ask the question, like, who am I? But you never took the time to like separate yourself from the thing.
mm-hmm,
And so thankfully that sports psychologist helped me separate myself from an outcome,
yeah,
a competition. And so you take this title out of, well, I'm a track athlete, I'm an Olympic athlete, I am a NCAA athlete. Like separate yourself from it. Like you're
yeah,
human. It's
yeah,
a game.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
cool, you play chess, but like there's a lot more to you than just chess,
absolutely,
you know?
yeah,
And so that stump for me of being just like so unbelievably stressed out
mm-hmm,
for like the 6 to 8 months before leading up to those Olympic trials, and then
mm-hmm,
having that mindset flip of I what do I do when I don't make it?
mm-hmm,
That just like released so much tension
yeah,
and it calmed me down. I walked into those trials and I third place was like 220 points for me, and
yeah,
second was like 120. I almost failed my last dive. Came out of the water like I still won
yeah,
because right here I let go of
yeah,
what this could be and I just did it. Just do the thing.
mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes it's as simple as that, but getting to the simplicity of it is incredibly
It's
hard.
war. It's war with your mind, having to walk yourself through that dark place that you don't want to, normally go to. You don't want to admit of saying like, yeah, what happens if I'm not attached to this title? What happens if I don't make it D1? What happens if I don't get this scholarship? Like, who am I as a person without like these things that I want or that I'm aiming for?
Yeah. And like the depressed states, the being in the dark, that is beautiful. Like there is beauty to those moments. A lot of people will shy away and run from that, but like Jim Carrey, that is deep rest for your soul. That is,
Mm,
you are being planted. You're not in a dark area. It's dark, but there's growth
mm-hmm,
there. There's growth there. So if you can look at it that way, it's much easier to stay down there and actually take the time to learn from it.
mm.
But if you shy away, negative feedback loop. And
Yeah, yeah,
we'll keep
yeah,
taking left-hand turns and it's a NASCAR race. Good
yeah.
luck.
Let me
So
ask you this. Would you say that it gets easier with time? Because in my experience is it might get easier in one aspect of your life, but these things show up in every other aspect. So it then becomes more challenging in another area. And you have to then work those same tools and those same muscles in another area of your life. But I'm just curious as to hear your perspective.
yeah, wow, 100%. I mean, you take a really, I just don't get along with this athlete on my team and I'm struggling. I hate that person so much. You don't think once you're done with athletics, you're not going to run into a workspace like that? And so it's like all these things do boil up to end up being very relative to one another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'm afraid, similar to 10 meter, that my
Mm-hmm.
athletic career is going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I address that?
Mm-hmm.
Do I shy away and run from it and just play video games all day? I've tried
Mm-hmm.
that. Didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or you can step towards it and listen, experience the fear, let it
Mm-hmm.
flow, and then decide what you can do with that. Take away the whole cake. Okay, I
Yep.
need to look for a job. That just makes the cake a little bit smaller.
Yep.
Now, what do I like to do? And so you take these things in bite sizes and, you know, again, fear will always be there.
Always.
That will never leave, but it's how we address those things. It's how we address the hard teammate that we're
Mm-hmm.
not good with. Can you be more loving? Sure, they're not the nicest person, but how can you be better? Like
Mm-hmm.
all you can do, like there's will always be external things in your life attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be an internal battle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have my next question is about balance. And I go back and forth of like the importance of finding balance and having balance, even when you're training for something huge like the Olympics and like managing that balance of the different aspects of yourself and the different aspects of your life. And then there's other conversations where it's like when you're chasing greatness, you don't have time to find balance. You need to be all in 100%. That's where you need to be. So I kind of bounce back and forth, and I would love to hear your opinion and then also how you and if you lean towards one or the other.
Yeah. This is probably one of my favorite discussions to have.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I made this up or I heard it somewhere and then just made it my own. But if you look, and I think I've seen similar pieces to it. If you look at your life and just put it into a triangle, right? There's something that's always going to be at the top,
Mm-hmm.
always. So let's just say athletics, making it to the Olympics, school, social.
Mm-hmm.
If you want athletics to be the top, things have to fall to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, it really is how it, like if you're trying to be the most elite 1% up here, your triangle can't be this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to tip. Something will always be at the top if you like it or not. Like you
Yeah.
cannot stand a triangle on a tip. It's
Yeah.
going to fall to the base,
Yeah.
right? And so when people try to juggle all three, good luck. Like your triangle ends up falling down and you're not elite at any of them. It just won't end up happening. Or you're just going to burn out because you're doing too many things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was a junior in high school, even before that, I'm hyper obsessed, like just obsessed with diving. I had zero balance. I had no balance. Sure, I'm in school, I'm not failing out, but I'm not getting a 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to Stanford. I didn't care. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go to the Olympics, not Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
If Stanford was my goal,
Academics.
who would be at the top?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I will never say failure classes. That's not the
Yeah.
point. But you have to understand that the path to get to this 1% is
Mm-hmm.
incredibly hard and it takes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So social's also going to come by the wayside. You're not going to hang out with as many friends. Say goodbye to a lot of those parties if you actually want to recover on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So good luck if you're trying to maintain some semblance of social life if it's going to be drinking,
Mm-hmm.
drugs, whatever. In
Mm-hmm.
that sense, is it's going to be really hard to stay elite here. Some do, but it's not many. Like if you
Yeah.
look at the majority of all of them, you might seem like not necessarily an outcast, but this is all he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I struggle with the balance thing too, to tell someone specifically, because the first piece I would say is what is your goal? Because
Mm-hmm.
if this goal is not an Olympic diver or an Olympic runner, then maybe that doesn't need to be at the top. That doesn't mean you're not training hard as crap for
Yeah.
said thing, but
Yeah.
maybe school's here, maybe family and social life is here. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
having a lot of
Yeah.
friends, having a lot of, social connections, that's fun. And that is a good life. That is
Hmm.
not a bad life. The life to become a 1% or less than 1%, it's it's miserable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's a hard path to go on. And like people, it's shiny and it's fun and it sounds fun. But once you get into it, you get into those dark realms of learning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, tell me if you want to wake up in the middle of the night to a panic attack because you're freaking out over this one dive. Like it's not as glorious,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a lot of these people that do get it and then they want to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure that's what you want?
Mm-hmm.
So first, I would understand what like your values are for
Yeah.
getting that.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes you find your values along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I'll say is it's people are like, you need to know this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, no, no, no. Like you got to find out. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to get
Mm-hmm.
into the depths of that. But midway through, you might, I don't know if this is for me. And
Yeah.
so that's okay. You're gonna turn your triangle.
Yeah.
Balance is it's it's a very hard thing when you're talking about elite. So depending on the question and who's asking it,
Yeah.
I would give consistently very different answers. Um, and I would tell people the positive and the hyper negative of being that hyper isolated on one thing.
Yeah.
But if
I've
you
never
want to,
heard. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was just gonna say, if you want to be more balanced, we're looking at more of a triangle, and that's
Mm.
not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the elites, the greatest people in the world, the Olympians, the Olympic champions, NBA
Mm-hmm.
finalists,
Mm-hmm.
NFL,
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Will never be a square.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually because that's how they're wired.
Mm-hmm.
Once you pull them out of that, it's
Mm-hmm.
just a different looking triangle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've never heard that description of a triangle before, and it makes so much sense. Like you're always going to have something that's guide. Something's always going to be at the top, whether it's something that you intentionally place there or it's something that's just kind of guiding your life and you're not aware. There is something that is the number one in your life. Um, yeah, I've never heard that description before.
Yeah. And you know, it's a hard conversation to have with someone.
Yeah.
I think it's a necessary conversation depending, let's say it's like a coach to athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an important piece is what does this triangle look like for you? And should it be a square?
Mm.
Because square isn't bad. Square is happy. I think that's kind of pushed to the wayside by a lot of people, by a lot of coaches. No, it needs to be a triangle for you. I need you to do well.
Wow.
That might not be the best way for that person to perform.
Yeah.
There are some people, I've known plenty of athletes that are phenomenal within the NCAA D1 that would party on the weekends.
Yeah. Same.
They're not winning,
Yeah.
but are they an NCAA finalist? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they do that consistently? Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
The coach might not like that because that's not hyper
Mm-hmm.
performance,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe just good performance is
Yeah.
what that person needs.
Yeah. I read 11 Rings by Phil Jackson. And what you're talking about reminds me of the way Phil Jackson coached Dennis Rodman, where it's like he couldn't coach Dennis Rodman like he would coach Kobe or like he would coach Shaq because Dennis needed more of the square, right? He needed more of having different aspects of his personality and his life. Being used and really like having those outlets, whereas like Kobe Bryant, it was more like the triangle. So I like that you said that the square can also be successful. It's just going to look different in comparison to that triangle.
Yeah, and you've got to know how to navigate that as a coach, because if you try to squeeze everything out of someone when they should be more so guided,
Mm,
that person's going to quit
hmm.
or they're going to shut down and they're
Hmm.
going to suck. And
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like
Yeah.
they just fall apart
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think squares and triangles are just two different people. Um, Getting towards success just looks lightly to majorly different depending on the
hmm
person.
hmm
So, yeah,
How do you deal with internal or external expectations?
I would say it leads back to the perspective. I think sometimes we have that perspective of this needs, I need to be perfect.
I should
Um,
be perfect.
I
Yep.
should, yeah, I hate the shoulds. I did that for so long.
I
I,
have,
I, sh
yeah.
yeah, I should have done this dive better. I should have ran faster. This is the hard part. And this is what I try to tell my athletes. You don't deserve shit.
hmm
You don't deserve a damn thing in this world,
hmm
but you can work for it.
hmm
That doesn't mean you get it.
Can you explain why you hate should, just so the people can hear?
Yeah.
I know why, but I'm curious as for
Yeah.
you.
Well, I mean, like should starts to add this piece of uh, ignorance in the aspect that things should be given to me.
hmm
I deserve this because I put in the work. And it's just ignorance looking away from all the other athletes that have done the exact same thing as you.
hmm
Some of them get it because they're more talented. Some of them understand that should doesn't mean anything. In my mind, should comes from someone that doesn't work as hard.
That was literally my thought.
Yeah, because should means that you are lacking emotional maturity and you can't step away from a correction, some work. Like there's a million different things, but yeah, I struggle to like I try to put it in nice terms, but
hmm
like should means that you stayed on the nipple for a little bit too long and mom was too
Yeah.
nice to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they said no, like you're the best in the world.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you need dad to push mom aside. Like we need soft love and that's great. But like dad sometimes needs to step in and goes like life is hard as shit
Yep.
and no one will give you anything.
At all.
Like the only way for you to get to the moon is for you to build the rocket ship yourself.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one's gonna give you one. And that is when it like things start to click of like I am gonna have to study for this. My
hmm
coach can't give me a perfect correction for
hmm
things to just work out. My coach
hmm
can't tell me, some gait cycle thing or try to fix one little thing to where boom, I'm running just absurdly fast. It will not happen. It will
Yeah.
not happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at some point you have to just recognize that like life is really hard
hmm
and no one's here to save you but yourself.
Yeah.
That that is an important piece.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in my mind, that's actually the should comes from most men.
hmm hmm
Men get that. And
hmm
a mentor of mine, I was in a hard place way back when, got broken up with. And it was that same thing. Take out athletics. I should get what I want. I
hmm
want to be back in this relationship. And he looked at
hmm
me and went, every young man needs to be broken up with at least once.
hmm
Because then it just reframes the mind. I'm not that great of a person and need to
Yeah.
work. I need to work to be better.
Yeah.
Those are good moments.
Yeah. It knocks off
That's,
that entitlement.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I deserve this. So it's like I just got planted deep in the ground and then you just get to stay there for a bit. And
hmm
that's good.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my last question is, what advice would you give to your high school self or younger self about the mental side of sports?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, the obvious piece is the sooner you start, the better. Uh, it's hard to say that to someone that doesn't know the utility of it. And it's like you can try to tell someone how important it is, right? You're guiding the horse. But
hmm
if they don't buy into it, it's kind of hard. So to be honest, I would see my high school self, then I would turn away and walk. I wouldn't say a damn word.
Mm.
I wouldn't say a single thing. Absolutely not. Because you've got to go through hell to see the stairway to heaven. Like you've just got to go through the trenches. So yeah, I would hold back everything,
Yeah.
knowing that like I'm seeing the path in front of said person,
hmm
myself,
hmm
going, what a great amount of learning that's about to come. I
hmm
hope it gets action. I hope it's harder than what I had because you'll
Yeah.
learn more.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say a damn word. I'd walk away.
Nobody has ever answered that question like that. So I appreciate I appreciate you saying that. And people always ask me, do I have any regrets or do I wish I could change things? And I always say no because they've made me exactly the person that I am today. And all of that, if I changed anything, I wouldn't be this person. And so yeah, I relate exactly to, let that person go through that. You have to go through those dark places in order to become, the best version of yourself.
Yeah. And again, it's almost like the should thing, like the entitlement piece is like, if I just told him this one little thing, he
Mm.
he could be the Olympic champion. It's
Hmm.
not for you, not for you to
Hmm.
say. I'd probably throw an egg or two,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that perspective of always wanting to say something to fix, that is the problem. To me, the person that does say that hasn't actually learned yet. They're not there. They're probably close, but I don't know if they get it yet.
Hmm.
I think that's the beautiful part. Would you walk that? To me, it's like I don't know if you've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, of course. That's one of my favorite shows.
It's
Beautiful
incredible.
show.
Yeah, I watch it like once a year.
Yeah.
Um, Uncle Iroh is like the best character, obviously.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so you'll see him. He's very good at giving advice when it's needed
Hmm.
and doesn't try to overly force himself into that position.
Mm.
I think as a coach, it's like, when can you wait for that to happen? Because just spraying advice might not be the move,
Yeah.
but trying to guide by maybe having tea with someone or coffee and just
Hmm.
letting them talk.
Hmm.
I've had too many mentors of mine that were more like Iro than I expected.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is kind of the best piece to kind of lean into. And like maybe that person's close to being an Iro that gave you that example, but like almost.
Hmm.
You're almost there. I'm not even saying that's me at
Yeah.
all
That was going to
because
be my
I
next question. Yeah.
so have so many people. I'm more of a Zuko where
Yeah.
I'm a hothead,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
I just started coaching
Yep.
and so I'm dealing with emotions. So
Hmm.
this is like
Hmm.
this is my new character arc. This is my new hero's journey is
Hmm.
understanding that I'm not the main character.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a hard one to go through.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, well, let me just
Yeah.
put on my cleats. Let me put on my speedo really quick and show them that. And
Yep.
you're like, nope, nope, you're missing the point. You're
Yeah.
completely missing the point.
Yeah.
And so that's my new, I think maybe we reset in who we are within that story,
Hmm.
because we all want
Hmm.
to be Aang, but like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
not that many avatars out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think just trying to understand that you're within that and like I'm trying to learn, I'm not there because
Hmm.
Iroh was learning the entire time within the
Hmm.
story and he
Hmm.
understands how flawed or like sinful he was within this piece
Yeah.
and then just slowly moving up to
Hmm.
where he could benefit the people as much as he could. So
Hmm.
it's like maybe the Irohs are the ones that have no idea they're Iroh,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And then like the ones that think they're Iroh are probably more so
Yeah.
Azula.
Yeah,
So
Zulu
yeah,
was crazy.
yeah, love that.
So I do this thing at the end called rapid fire questions where I give you 30 seconds essentially to answer five questions.
Oof.
Yeah, no, I make it difficult intentionally. And so I'll start the timer after I ask the first question.
Okay.
What is your go-to pregame hype song?
Classical music, I'd probably lean towards, oh, I don't have the name of it. Any and all classical music, funny enough.
Okay, what's your favorite cheat meal?
Pizza,
What's your favorite off-day hobby?
pickleball,
If you could relive one moment from your career, what would it be?
the worst one.
What is the best advice you've been given?
Let go.
Wow, man, just made it. Just made it. There we go. There we go. And so I want to ask you if there was anything that you wanted to say on the podcast that you might not have had a chance earlier to share and just give you that opportunity.
No, I think we hit great pieces. I think the main thing, hopefully, that people get from this is You've always got to be a student.
Mm-hmm.
I, coach, athlete, non-athlete,
Mm-hmm.
parent.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say parent.
Woof, sometimes the worst ones.
Yeah.
Um, you've got to be a student. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you can't learn from what's being put in front of you, then I think we're missing the overall theme or, the point of life itself or even, the sport that you're doing.
Yeah.
So just that perspective of can we move the needle in the right direction?
Yeah.
Not to say we necessarily know what the right direction is, but can we
Mm-hmm.
just try to be better?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'd be it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. Thank you. This was phenomenal. This was by far my longest episode as well, too. So, and it was just all great insights and tidbits and knowledge. And it was beautiful hearing and learning from your journey and your experiences. So thank you.
Appreciate it. It's been fun. Love
Yeah.
chatting about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna close this out and then I have another question to ask you. But thank you everybody for listening. Take care.